Going beyond the headlines. Asking the questions you want answered. Exploring government policies and how they impact you. We are delving deeper.
Good evening and welcome to Delving Deeper. I am your host, Sonal Lala. Joining us this evening are Acting ESP Gideon Dixon and Acting ESP Ishmael Pitt, the President and Vice President, respectively, of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Social and Welfare Association. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
It is our pleasure to be here.
Now, a lot has happened since you all were last here. We had a big talking point was the 4% salary increase for officers. Tell us, did officers get their back pay since then?
Yes, we have officers receiving back pay, but the entire exercise has not been completed to this point in time. The record would show as at Thursday, 11 a.m., we had 63% of the regular officers receiving the back pay, 37% outstanding. We also have over 98% of our special reserve officers receiving their back pay. So all in all, the exercise continues. There has been some challenges which the association have engaged with administration head on, and in a meeting at 11 a.m. on Wednesday with the new DCP administration, we were able to iron out some of the challenges as it relates to the back pay situation, and hopefully we should see some increased alacrity in terms of the delivery of the service to the back pay for officers.
Has there been a deadline date set to when all the officers would receive their back pay?
This is a situation which the officers were given some expectation over the last couple of months. And with those expectations not being realized, no fault of the officers who are expecting their funds, but more so because of our internal gaps in the processes, we would not want to go on record at this point in time and say it will be completed by this particular date and it not occur. What we could say as a responsible association, we have engaged the administration head on, and we are in a position where we are seeing closer to the finishing line as opposed to where we were before. And with the multi-pronged approach where they will also be doing it both via your salary delivery and the check situation, we anticipate that officers will be getting it a lot faster and in a more timely manner to finish off that remaining 37% regulars and 2% the special reserve officers.
It is a monumental task, isn't it? Because we saw the Ministry of Education to try to get the back pay for teachers as well, and they all had some issues to get the back pay for all of them. How difficult has it been?
It has been extremely difficult for the police, and particularly we were the second body to sign off on the salary negotiation. And when we went into caucus with our administrative team, upon that caucus meeting and putting systems in place which occurred in and around May last year, the exercise continued, but we had some challenges along the way, to the extent that we could say we are aware that the commissioner would have done several interventions in terms of bringing in extra staff, collaborating with our colleagues in national security to have personnel within the department to try to address some of our internal issues. Those things bear some fruits. It was not sufficient to get us where we need to be. The exercise right now being spearheaded by the Superintendent of Finance in collaboration with the AE1, that is the accounting officer, and they are working feverishly. It is our own staff who are doing the majority of the work, and those staff also are going over and beyond the normal average 84, 85 working hours to get it done. So, and there is no replacement for the staff. And because police officers have grown accustomed to several different allowances as opposed to the regular public servant, it becomes challenging when officers move from point A to point B, and the administrative record that follows same. All these things need to be qualified together with the internal auditing processes, those things have caused us some internal challenges, which we are about to overcome in the next coming days.
Now, Mr. Pitt, there was a lot of talk about officers not showing up for Carnival. By all accounts, we did see most of the officers show up and so on. What is the association doing to boost the morale of the officers?
Excellent question. So, firstly, for Carnival, yes, we had a significant turnout. And for that reason, the TTPS, we were successful regarding the management of Carnival. And we dare say it may have been the safest Carnival to date. We know every year persons may boast of that, but the statistics will support us in this one. Regarding what the association is doing to boost the morale of officers, well, with policing, there are lots of challenges. And challenges comes both ways. It comes within the form of your job, and it comes within your own personal space. And we focus heavily regarding persons' personal space. So there are officers who may have medical issues. There are officers who may have ambitions in terms of pursuing higher education. And, these areas that we may tend to overlook, thinking that it's more individualistic, is very important to these officers now going forward and being better employees, being more productive employees, being professionals, and being those persons where they fall within alignment with the policies of the organization. So from an organizational perspective, meaning what happens on the job, in certain areas, sometimes the resources may not be that adequate, sometimes the resources may not be that appropriate, and we are the voice of the persons. We will articulate these views to the executive of the TTPS in order to have those situations addressed. Also, in terms of probably sometimes the day-to-day activities, as small as they may be, that may impact on officers. Now, we may say that different officers are motivated differently, and for that reason, we tend to reach out to that extent to get that feedback from individual officers to understand what might be their individual circumstances. So these are just amongst the different avenues that we would approach that situation of treating with moral of officers. But it is indeed, I would say, an issue that, it's a work in progress. We are not where we would want to be regarding that level of boost, but we are going in that direction, and we are satisfied at this point in time that we are doing sufficiently, and we could say that officers are performing at an acceptable standard regarding the level of morale they have at this point in time.
As you talk about Carnival and it being successful, we almost saw on Juve morning, where many of the community carnivals like Tunapuna, Shogunas, it went further in terms of the time allotted, because normally it cuts off about 9:30. We saw it going to almost 10, 11, and even on Carnival Tuesday night as well. I know in Tunapuna in particular, the celebrations almost stopped around 12 midnight. Police, basically, this is a reflection of how successful it was.
Indeed. And it goes both ways. So we would obviously like to accept the fact that we did a tremendous job. But we must also say kudos to the public. We had several outreach programs and several layers of messaging that went out to the public, the do's and don'ts, and largely persons were very much in compliance. So for that reason, we thank members of the public for the support that they would have given to us, and in terms of just being a good bunch for Carnival. Internally, our officers were ever present, very professional. We partnered with different agencies, the Defense Force, we had the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education. So it was an amalgamation of agencies, of course, the TTPS taking the lead, and it really was a successful Carnival.
I want to delve a bit into the police investigation. Mr. Pitt, you're very much involved in the Northern Division, and we recently saw the skeletal remains being found at a home in Valsine. DNA testing, is it being done by the Forensic Sciences Center, and how long does it really take?
Well, that's a good question. It is being done at the center, and to say how long it would take, I think that would be a question better left for the experts. We would all want that type of information, a type of evidence, it comes back in a quick period of time. That is not always the case. We trust the process, it is scientific, and it is important regarding our presentation of evidence if things are to go further regarding persons being prosecuted.
What would lead to these DNA investigations being sent at foreign institutions to be done?
What would lead to that?
Yeah.
Well, that is more or less a question that would be better answered by persons who have the say and the direction to determine if something should go abroad or not. I would think, though, if I'm to make a calculated guess, that it might be for the purpose of expediting, or probably if the case is, probably extremely complex. But that's just me saying that. I can't say conclusively what would contribute to that type of action taking place.
I believe a new forensic sciences center is being built, or it's being in the planning stages of being built in Kirep.
Yeah.
In terms of the association, in terms of police, are you all expecting that this will bring about greater effectiveness in terms of the testing being done at forensics?
Indeed. And this is it's something that we welcome. It means to say now that the capacity of the forensic science center, it would increase. We are looking at a case of more or less decentralization. A lot of what we do is hinged on forensic science, and we have had so many situations where cases were backed up because of this information or this evidence not coming in as quickly as we would want it to. So in the interest of justice, in the interest of law enforcement, it is really, really a welcome addition.
Do you think with the addition of this new forensic sciences center, the police would be more effective in terms of their investigations?
Oh, definitely. We would be more effective. It means to say now that, every piece of evidence that we believe is reliant on that level of forensic analysis could be tested, and it could be tested in a quick manner. And that in itself is very, very encouraging. We know what science brings to the equation. It's a matter of being extremely independent. And for that purpose, it usually withstands judicial scrutiny.
A large chunk of the budget goes to national security. How are the improvements in technology assisting officers with their investigations?
That's an excellent question, Mr. Sunil. We are in the era of technology to move people, move country forward. As an organization, we are also going through that transition where we are now digitizing most of our records. Even at the association level, we are going through the process as we speak. However, when you hear a budget announced by the government in relation to national security and police getting a major chunk, a lot of it have to do with a lot of recurring expenditure. And those expenditures occur within the annual or the fiscal year, and sometimes service providers are not given it in a timely manner. So right now we have issues at varying levels or varying compounds within the confines of policing in our stations and everywhere. And the information we receive to this point is that because you have some outstanding bills that haven't been met yet, so the service providers are playing hardball, and probably rightly so, because the service providers have their family and their workers to feed. So as much as we might put a budget there for technology and the implementation of technology and the usage of technology and creating, monitoring and evaluating circumstances through technology, we have our challenges in terms of the frequency in which the monies are drawn down and utilized for the activities. And those things are real. Those things will impact your delivery of service to the customer. But the customer is not saying that. The customer is aware that the budget said a big chunk goes to the police, and a part of that chunk is for technology. The members of the public, the customer, is not mindful that we have outstanding debts that need to be paid. So it is a work in progress. I think that a lot more advocacy, a lot more focused approach needs to take place, where we are able to streamline where the funds go and also pay off those who we owe. You see, having a good name is everything, and it can only carry you so far. But persons cannot carry that to the pump station or to the grocery. So to the service providers who expect their funds, we need to ensure that those delivery occur in a meaningful way. As it relates to our technological advancement in policing, we are seeing it in almost every facet. It is occurring in our GPS system, in our operational center. It is occurring in our, you said it, body, everywhere it is occurring. And it is a move in the right direction. It is first world policing, it is 21st century policing.
Are police officers being trained to get or develop into this new technology to be able to use it more efficiently?
Well, there's always room for improvement with training. We have, through our police academy, the provost and his team, they are doing a tremendous job in trying to keep us current in terms of delivery of what is taking place outside there, having it facilitated at the academy. But there is always never enough time nor enough resources, we believe, from on the ground allocated to training. As an association, one of our clarion call, and it will be like a road march, is that training also supposed to have a layer of recertification. So it makes no sense to just train persons today and they don't use that skill set. You don't recertify that skill set over time to be able to get effective best practice. So we will always say, let us create a module that we can take a batch of officers, train them this time around this year, and a year from now, we call them for recertification. The training will be of a less intensity, but it's to ensure that you maintain the standards that is required for a best practice approach, and you move on. We are yet to reach there. I trust that in this new dispensation, with 3 functioning deputy commissioners of police and a commissioner of police to provide strategic leadership, we are able to get to that chapter in our country's history.
Over the years, Mr. Pitt, there's been some complaints about officers who turn a blind eye made by citizens. What is the association doing to help this issue?
That's a broad question. And when we say turn a blind eye, if I might say, if you mean police officers who totally ignore their role and function, firstly, as an association, we would not condone that. And we would encourage our officers to be professional, to be courteous to the public. And it's a matter of, we look at things both ways. Officers would go out there and they would do excellent, excellent work. And for that reason, we would commend them. On the contrary, if officers go out there and they don't do what they're supposed to do, we hold them to account. And we must maintain that balance. This is a public organization. We are responsible for law enforcement. There's a particular standard that we must function by. So it is important for each of our officers to understand our shared values. And once they are guided by our shared values and they provide that level of service to the public as an association, we are very, very, very much grateful for that. So we will continue to urge our officers, be professional, give the level of service to the public that they deserve, that they continuously demand, that is in keeping with international practice, the modernization of the TTPS. We would stand for nothing less.
There was a report a couple of years ago that male individuals reporting domestic violence cases were almost not turned away, but almost laughed out of the room of a police station. There's a certain stigma. Has the association gotten any reports from males in terms of reporting these domestic violence cases, and are they being turned away?
Well, we have no data really to support that. However, we would not bury our heads in the sand and deny that things like that may not have occurred previous years. We must be mature, and in so doing, it is important that we recognize that we are in 2024. Gender-based violence goes both ways. And, you know, men have been treated a particular way previously because of the traditional viewpoint. Men are supposed to be masculine and we are supposed to deal with issues in a particular way. We are not supposed to be that emotional and we are not supposed to be that sensitive. However, we have recognized that in utilizing those type of approaches or having that stereotype, it does not augur well in terms of treating with these domestic violence cases. Persons would lash out, and they would lash out because they need that level of intervention. And it is important for our officers to intervene and intervene regardless of the gender of the person who is making the report. So I think we have matured a lot as an organization with regard to this particular issue. Obviously, there will be room for improvement, and we welcome that type of improvement through the lens of training and other sources of development.
Now, a recent newspaper article would have quoted the Prime Minister as throwing blame on the protective services contributing to the crime problem. Any response from the association?
We made a very affirmative response in relation to that statement. We said from the onset, the article title was not in keeping with the content nor the audio soundbite associated with what would have transpired on that particular day. And if one is fair to what was said, it almost presented that the police officers, regardless of our issues that we are facing, we are not a perfect organization. And we are not saying that we don't have officers who have been brought before the court and have caused us some stress over time. But he also said that regardless of the issues faced by the police, whenever you call upon them, they are present. Additionally, the court will also attest several persons are being brought before the court, but they are revolving in the judicial system. So in fairness, the statement wasn't taken away from police. It said that the police are working. Additionally, I want the record to show that the protective services is not the police only. The protective services are made up of several different entities. And with those entities, inclusive of the Defense Force, the Coast Guard, the prisons, we also have the fire service to an extent, we have customs have a part to play, and in more recent times, those statements could be attributed to what was occurring at the SSA. So that being said, says a lot, and inquiries, investigations are afoot where those things are concerned, and we expect it will be reported in the public space at some point in time, the extent to how much everything was compromised. It also showed that we, the police officers, based on that statement, we the police officers who are the guardians, we are the guardians. He wants to know who is guarding the guards. And we also want to know who guarding the guards, because when we are thinking that we are operating with allies in the best interest of national security, in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, it was evident to this point in time, based on what has been reported, that we won't. We didn't have the kind of support that we were supposed to have because of the issues that have been coming to the forefront within recent times. So again, the statement in itself, the title was not consistent with the activities reported by the Prime Minister. Additionally, I want to take this opportunity to say that police officers are human beings, and oftentimes persons, our public, don't really understand and appreciate that we are human beings. Just one Saturday ago, we lost an officer who have vintage in service as senior officer. And prior to that, 2-3 weeks prior to that, we lost another officer in Central. And prior to that, we lost another officer in Valsane to vicious crime with firearms. And officers continue to try to protect the law-abiding and even ensure that the criminal justice system works. Because if we don't take persons before the court, then there is no need for the court. But we also need to look at the court. Somebody, some part of the authority needs to have the court accounting to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because here what happened. Oftentimes, and I'm passionate about this, oftentimes fingers are pointed at the police. there is a whole of society breakdown in terms of values, in terms of mores, in terms of substance. There has been a breakdown. And with that breakdown now, the police is being called on to act more and more. The police have put out strategic plans and targets, and we have been getting licks for not achieving them. But no one is calling others who are in the criminal justice system to account. How could you explain to me, in this day and age, when we understand the prevalence of the high power weapons and the fear it is putting in the average member of society mind when just thinking about it? 2 men went before the court. They confessed to being guilty of robbery with aggravation. And the penalty they get was reprimand and discharge. Pay the victim $4,000. Keep the peace for the next 2 years. There is inconsistency with what is happening outside here and what the court is delivering to the people, the law-abiding people. So the victim continues to be a victim. But when the message is sent by the court and is not adequate with the offense committed, it means the work of the police becomes even more difficult because we need witnesses to be able to strengthen our case and ensure perpetrators are dealt with according to the law. So in those instances, we are seeing there is inconsistency and someone needs to address it and address it head on.
Mr. Dixon, earlier this year, you would have made a call saying there were issues in terms of officers renewing their FULs, in terms of having to submit some documents. Has this been sorted out?
We have had some serious progress where that is concerned. When the mandate was given by the Commissioner of Police, hundreds of officers reached out to the association with a level of anxiety. The fact that the process was being changed, and we understand every time there is change, there is a level of resistance. We first-handedly went and experienced the change process. And the truth be told, that change process is necessary right now in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly because we have officers who have trained with a firearm over time and has not used it again. And to be equipped to be modern, to be professional, recertification, and I said earlier in the program that we believe in training, retraining, and recertification. So training and recertification. So this now offers an opportunity for officers to get recertified. We have used our resources in terms of our firearm instructors to assist in that project, which has worked tremendously for us. So hundreds, over thousands of our officers who are FUL holders have been afforded that opportunity. Additionally, the doctors at the police hospital have made themselves available to assist as it relates to the medical certification of the officers. So those 2 areas came into for very high commendation, and the officers welcome it. It now put our officers in a better position where they are retrained and they also certified medically competent to be able to carry the firearm, especially the personal firearm. The exercise as it relates to the TTPS firearm continues, and it is one which we also encourage because it's given an opportunity for officers to get familiar with their use of force policy, with their levels of engagement, and their handling of their firearm. So we welcome it.
Mr. Pitt, we recently saw the appointment of a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Suzette Martin. We now have a Commissioner of Police, a substantive Commissioner of Police, and 3 substantive Deputy Commissioners of Police. I understand that women police officers now make up 75% of the TTPS executive. What's your thoughts on this from the association's perspective?
The association views capacity. The association views competence. The association, we don't view gender, save and except it means going to the washroom. So we welcome the fact that we have confirmed officers at the Deputy Commissioner level, and we endorse those appointments, and we will urge on the rest of the organization to support. It is in the interest of the public.
Your final thoughts?
By no stretch of the imagination, we from the association are here to defend everything TTPS. Nor are we here to defend everything association. We are not a perfect body. We strive for excellence, and you would see it in several of our initiatives as an association. So whilst we accept that in Trinidad and Tobago, there is a standard of doing things, and it is curtailed more so in a level of bureaucracy. As an association, we believe we are in the era of innovation. So we have shown innovation in terms of things that we do. We are looking to put our officers into homes. In the not too distant future, you will see that happening. The officers will be moving into homes. We have embarked upon an exercise where we could educate our officers, all those who are pursuing higher academia. We are supporting them. We are even supporting their kids, even up to the area of CSEC and CAPE. We are also supporting our officers as it relates to, we just completed a protective arms monarch competition, which was not limited only to the TTPS, but we embrace our colleagues in law enforcement, particularly because we understand the synergy that is necessary to be able to move and impact communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So we continue to do things, and we are saying that we are a small group in the context of what is required outside here, but we could influence others by what we do. And we use our creative ability and the fact that we have persons who have bought into the model that we are trying to do to be able to move the process forward. We expect soon to put up a price model for officers in terms of creating a grocery where they could be able to benefit from in terms of where we are going in terms of food shortage. We want to protect that for officers in not too distant future. So against that backdrop, we continue to work and try to bring different benefits to our members on a day-to-day basis. I just wanted to say that.
Mr. Pitt, your final thoughts?
I endorse the sentiments of my president in that, we have broken from the traditional meaning or the traditional approaches of associations, and we have been going in different directions. We know that we may not at this point in time please all our members because there's always room for improvement and the persons are impacted differently. But we urge our members to continue to have that level of confidence in us. We are by no means perfect, and we would respect and welcome the feedback in order to improve our delivery of service.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the show. We have been speaking with Acting ASP Ishmael Pitt and Acting ASP Gideon Dixon, the President and Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and Social and Welfare Association. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Sunil, for having us.
Thank you.
Join us on April 7th for another episode of Delving Deeper. I am Sonolala, and on behalf of the entire group, have a great night.